On the far edge of the galaxy, there was a small trade moon called Verdun Station. It was famous for its black market auctions, where anything could be bought or sold if the price was right. Smugglers, pirates, and merchants from 100 worlds came here. But that night, one human stood quietly in the crowd. His name was Ethan Cross, a ship mechanic and salvager. He wasn't rich and he wasn't a criminal. He was there for one reason: to buy an old alien power core rumored to be on auction. The room was dim, filled with whispers and flashing lights. Strange smoke floated near the ceiling. The auctioneer, a tall insectoid alien with glowing red eyes, slammed a staff on the floor. "Lot 47, he hissed. "A relic of the fallen Xerian Empire." Ethan's heart jumped. The Xerians were a powerful alien race that vanished long ago. Their technology was beyond imagination. He leaned forward, expecting a metallic object or some strange artifact to appear. The curtain slowly lifted. The crowd gasped. It wasn't an object. It was a girl. She looked barely 20. Her skin shimmered faintly silver under the light, her long white hair falling to her shoulders. Chains of glowing metal bound her wrists and ankles. Her eyes, bright, deep blue, met Ethan's for a split second. In them, he didn't see anger or pride. He saw fear. The auctioneer smiled cruelly. A rare living specimen from the extinct Xerian line. Fully conscious, fully functional. A true collector's treasure. The crowd murmured in excitement. Bids started instantly. 3,000 credits, shouted a reptilian trader. 4,000, yelled another. Ethan just stared, frozen. He had come to buy an object, not a living being. Then someone behind him whispered, "That's no clone. That's the last Xerian princess, worth millions to the right buyer." Ethan's breath caught. A princess? He looked again at her, so still, so quiet. The auctioneer yanked her chain, forcing her to kneel. She didn't fight back, only lowered her head in shame. Ethan's mind raced. He remembered reading old war files. The Xerians were betrayed by humans during the final galactic war. They were wiped out, their planets burned. And now here one stood, sold like an object. Something inside him snapped. He raised his hand. 5,000 credits. The crowd turned to look at him, a lone human among alien buyers. The insectoid auctioneer tilted his head, amused. A human buyer. Interesting. Do I hear 6,000? No one spoke. The price was high for something most considered dangerous. After a tense pause, the auctioneer slammed his staff. Sold to the human bidder. The crowd clapped mockingly. Ethan's hands shook as he approached the stage. The girl didn't look up. 2 guards shoved her toward him, chains rattling. Ethan signed the digital note and transferred every last credit he had. When the guards left, it was just him and her. I didn't know, Ethan said softly. "I thought you were something else." An artifact. She finally looked up. Her eyes were wet, glowing faintly in the dim light. Her voice was soft, trembling. "You bought me?" Ethan's heart twisted. "No, I mean, yes, but not like that. I'm not going to hurt you." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then she whispered a single word, one that made his blood run cold. "Help." Before he could answer, alarms blared across the hall. Someone shouted, "The buyer's ID is fake." "Stop him." Ethan grabbed her hand and ran. They dashed through a side door as laser blast hit the walls. The metallic corridors echoed with sirens and shouts. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't leave her behind. They reached a maintenance tunnel that led to the docking bay. Ethan's small ship, the Sparrow, was waiting. He opened the hatch and they rushed inside. The girl stumbled, weak from the chains. Ethan quickly cut them off with a plasma tool. She flinched but didn't resist. As the last chain fell, she touched her wrists and looked at him, confused. Why are you helping me?" Ethan looked at her, really looked. She wasn't a weapon or a slave. She was just scared. "Because no one else will," he said quietly. The ship lifted off as patrol drones appeared outside. Ethan slammed the thrusters and escaped into the blackness of space. The girl sat beside him, still trembling. "My name is Ethan," he said. "You're safe now." She turned to him slowly. "Safe? No, they will come for me. For both of us." Ethan frowned. "Who will?" Her glowing eyes stared into his, her voice barely a whisper. "The ones who created me." And as the stars stretched around them, Ethan realized this was no simple rescue. The real danger had just begun. Ethan's ship, the Sparrow, drifted through deep space. The silence inside felt heavy, broken only by the soft hum of the engines. Across from him sat the girl he had just rescued, or maybe stolen from the auction. She sat quietly, watching the stars through the window. Ethan stole a glance at her. Even with the faint bruises on her wrists, there was something otherworldly about her. Graceful, calm, yet fragile. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the cabin's low light. The chain marks shimmered like faint cracks on glass. He cleared his throat. "You have a name." She hesitated before whispering, "Lyra." Her voice was soft, musical, almost too delicate for a world that had treated her so cruelly. Ethan nodded. "I'm Ethan. You're safe now, Lyra. I don't know who those people were, but they're not getting you back." Lyra turned her head, her eyes glowing faintly blue. "You don't understand. They always come back." Ethan frowned. "Who?" "The collectors. They hunt what they created." Ethan froze. "Created? I thought you said you were Xerian." Lyra looked down, clutching her wrists. "I am, but not fully. They called me the last of my kind, but I am not pure. I was born in a lab." Ethan's stomach twisted. He remembered stories of the Xerian War. Humans experimenting on alien DNA, mixing life like it was a science project. Most thought those rumors were old propaganda, but now sitting before him was proof they were true. He leaned back in his chair. "You mean humans made you?" Her silence was the only answer he needed. The ship's radar beeped, snapping him out of thought. 3 red dots appeared on the screen, small ships following fast. "They found us," Ethan muttered, pressing buttons on the console. Lyra stood, her voice shaking. "If they catch me, they'll kill you." Ethan smirked. "They can try." He slammed the thrusters, and the Sparrow dove into a nearby asteroid belt. Lasers flashed behind them, lighting up the black void. Ethan weaved between the rocks, every nerve in his body on fire. The smaller ship scraped a rock and spun out. Another exploded when it hit a drifting asteroid. Only one stayed on their tail. Lyra clutched the seat, her hands glowing faintly. Ethan noticed it but said nothing. He needed to focus. Suddenly, her eyes turned bright white. A pulse of blue light shot from her palms, hitting the last pursuing ship. It froze mid-flight, systems dead. Ethan turned in shock. "What did you just do?" Lyra looked at her hands, terrified. "I don't know. It just happened. They escaped the asteroid belt and drifted in quiet space." Ethan turned the ship to autopilot. "You've got abilities you don't understand," he said softly. "That's why they wanted you." Lyra nodded slowly. "They used to test me. They said I was the link between human and Xerian, the bridge of 2 species. But I escaped, until they caught me again." Ethan clenched his fists. "So that auction wasn't random. Someone planned to sell you, to the highest bidder." "Yes," she said, her voice trembling. "Someone who wanted to hide the truth. My existence proves the war never ended. It just changed shape." He stared at her, realizing the danger they were in. "If they catch us, they'll erase everything. Me, you, all of it." Lyra looked at him, her expression softer now. "Then why save me?" "You could have walked away," Ethan sighed. "Because I saw your eyes. You weren't just scared, you were alive. No one deserves to live in chains." A faint smile crossed her lips for the first time. "You're strange for a human." "Yeah," he said, chuckling weakly. "I've been told that before." For a while, silence filled the ship again. Then Lyra spoke, her voice almost a whisper. "There's something I need to show you." She touched the bracelet still on her wrist. It glowed faintly, then projected a small holographic map in midair. Ethan stared. It showed a star system far beyond known space, glowing with strange symbols. "What is that?" he asked. "The place where I was made," Lyra said. "And maybe where the truth lies," Ethan frowned. "You want to go back there? That's suicide." She met his eyes, calm and determined. "If I don't face it, they'll never stop hunting me." "You'll never be safe." Ethan rubbed his face, exhaling. "All right. But we do this smart, quiet. I'll find a way to get us there." As she nodded, a strange look crossed her face. Part sadness, part trust. Ethan didn't realize it yet, but something was changing between them. The fear in her eyes was slowly being replaced by something else. Hope. Outside the window, the stars shimmered as if listening to their promise. The human who bought an alien girl was now about to risk everything to protect her. And far away in the dark halls of an old research station, a voice spoke through static. "Subject Lyra has been found. Prepare the retrieval fleet. The hunt had only just begun." The stars outside the Sparrow stretched like ribbons of light as the ship entered silent space. Ethan leaned over the navigation console, his brow furrowed. The holographic map Lyra had shown him earlier floated in the air, strange symbols and glowing routes leading to an uncharted system far beyond known space. He rubbed his neck. "You sure this is where you want to go?" Lyra nodded quietly. "That place. It's called Xenar. It's where I was created. The truth about me, and maybe about your people too, lies there." Ethan sighed. "Xenar doesn't appear on any map. That means whoever's guarding it doesn't want visitors." Lyra's bracelet blinked faintly again as if responding to their talk. The light pulsed 3 times, then stopped. She looked at it with worry. "It's reacting again," she said softly. "It does that when I speak about Xenar." Ethan frowned. "Maybe it's some kind of tracker." She shook her head. "No, it's something else. It's alive." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Alive like a machine?" Lyra turned her wrist toward him. The bracelet's metal shimmered, then shifted slightly like breathing skin. Ethan stepped closer, watching in disbelief. "It was given to me the day I escaped," Lyra whispered. "The scientists said it held my identity code. But now I think it's more than that." Before Ethan could reply, the bracelet projected a faint blue light again. The hologram expanded, showing strange circular patterns and an image, a glowing crystal heart beating slowly. Around it, Xerian letters appeared. "What's it saying?" Ethan asked. Lyra's eyes narrowed, focusing. "It says, the heart of Xenar." "The heart?" Ethan echoed. "Yes," she said. "A power source. Or maybe a mind. It's the key to something they feared. That's why they kept it hidden." Ethan crossed his arms. "And your bracelet's the key to finding it?" She nodded. "It reacts to my DNA. It can open the vault where the heart is sealed." Ethan looked out the viewport. "Then we'd better move fast before those collectors reach us." He adjusted the ship's coordinates to follow the signal. But before the jump, he noticed something, an encrypted frequency echoing through his comms. Someone was tracking their course. He killed the signal instantly. "They're still after us," he muttered. Lyra closed her eyes. "They'll never stop. The heart of Xenar can reshape minds. It can rewrite memories, control thoughts. If they get it, no one will be free." Ethan froze. "Wait, control minds? Like brainwashing?" "Yes," she said, her tone grim. "That's how they ended the war. The humans didn't just fight the Xerians. They broke them from the inside, made them forget who they were." The truth hit Ethan like a punch. His ancestors hadn't just fought. They'd rewritten history. Hours later, Lyra sat near the observation window staring at the stars. Ethan brought her a cup of recycled water. "You should rest," he said. She shook her head. "I don't dream anymore. Every time I sleep, I see flashes of others like me, faces, voices, screams." He sat beside her. "What if those are memories? Maybe the bracelet stores more than maps." Her eyes widened. "Memories. You might be right." She lifted her wrist, placing the bracelet near her temple. The glow intensified, and suddenly a faint hum filled the cabin. Ethan could see her shaking slightly. Images flickered in the air, rows of glass tubes, humans in white suits, and hundreds of silver-skinned figures inside those tubes. Lyra gasped and pulled her hand away, breathing fast. "They used us as templates. They didn't destroy the Xerians. They copied us." Ethan looked horrified. "You mean there are more like you?" "Maybe," she said weakly. "But they erased their memories, turned them into soldiers, servants, tools." Before she could finish, the console beeped. Ethan rushed to it. "Incoming transmission," he muttered. A cold, robotic voice echoed through the cabin. "Unauthorized subject detected. Surrender the hybrid immediately. This is your only warning." Ethan cut the transmission and cursed under his breath. "They found us again. That's a government code." Lyra stood, fear flashing across her face. "They know about Xenar now. The signal from my bracelet, alerted them," Ethan finished grimly. "Then we don't have much time." He flipped switches and powered up the jump engines. "Hold on tight." The Sparrow roared as space twisted around them, stars becoming streams of light. Lyra grabbed the seat, closing her eyes. Ethan watched her, his heart pounding, not from fear but from something else. He didn't understand why, but he felt responsible for her. Like protecting her was something he had to do. When the jump ended, they appeared near a dead system, a cluster of shattered moons and a single glowing planet. The bracelet on Lyra's wrist flared brighter than ever. She opened her eyes slowly. We're here, she whispered. The heart of Zynar is calling me. Ethan glanced at her. Then let's find it before they do. But as they approached the planet, a dark shape emerged from the shadows, a massive warship, black and silent, blocking their path. Lyra's bracelet pulsed once violently. That ship, she whispered in terror, belongs to the ones who made me. And Ethan knew this was no longer a race for truth. It was a fight for survival. The moment the Sparrow dropped out of hyperspace, Ethan's stomach tightened. In front of them, floating like a black mountain, was the warship. Its hull shimmered with cold silver markings, the emblem of the Collectors. Dozens of smaller drones hovered around it, scanning the void. Lyra's voice trembled. That ship? It's the same one that took me when I escaped years ago. Ethan's jaw clenched. Then this time they won't take you back. The warship didn't move, but the sensors screamed with warnings. They were being locked. Ethan grabbed the controls. Hold on, he shouted, jerking the ship downward toward the planet below. A rain of plasma fire followed them. Blue bolts streaked past the cockpit, shaking the ship. The shields flared weakly. The Sparrow wasn't built for combat. It was an old mechanic's freighter with patched engines and rusted plating. But Ethan flew it like it was part of him, weaving between debris fields and broken satellites. Can you disable their scanners? He yelled. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she touched the console. Strange symbols appeared on the screen, mixing human code with Xerian script. I can jam them for a few seconds. Maybe. Do it. The ship shook again as another blast grazed their tail. Lyra whispered in her language, and the bracelet on her wrist flared. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. The radar blinked out. The Collectors lost their lock. Ethan dove into the planet's atmosphere, the hull heating as they broke through clouds. Lightning crackled outside. The ship screeched but held. Finally, they burst into open sky. A wasteland of crimson sand and jagged rock stretched below. He spotted a canyon ahead. We'll hide there, he said. They landed deep inside a narrow ravine. Dust clouds swirled around them as Ethan powered down the ship. Both sat there, breathing heavily, hearts racing. Lyra looked out the window. They will search every inch of this planet. Then we stay quiet, Ethan said, grabbing a small blaster. And we move fast. He checked the scanner, no signals nearby. Still, something in the silence felt wrong. Too still, too calm. Hours passed. The red sun began to set, painting the cliffs in gold and blood. Ethan set up a small camp outside the ship. Lyra sat by the fire, her bracelet glowing faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. He watched her carefully. You did good up there, he said. You saved us, she shook her head. I nearly burned out the ship's systems, my powers. They're dangerous, Ethan smiled faintly. So am I when I don't get enough sleep. Lyra almost laughed, a small sound but real. It was the first time Ethan had seen her smile. As night fell, a cold wind whispered through the canyon. Ethan looked up at the sky. 2 moons, one half broken, hung above. You sure this planet is where the heart of Zynar is? Lyra nodded slowly. I can feel it, like it's calling me. She touched the sand and closed her eyes. The ground shimmered faintly and blue veins of light spread outward like roots. Ethan watched in awe. What's happening? It's showing us the way, she whispered. The light formed a faint path across the desert leading toward the horizon. Ethan extinguished the fire and packed their gear. Then let's move before dawn. They followed the glowing trail on foot, moving between tall rock spires. But halfway through the canyon, Ethan stopped. He heard something, a faint clicking sound echoing from the shadows. Drones, he muttered. From the darkness, small hovering machines appeared, their red eyes scanning. Ethan pulled his blaster. Get behind me! The drones fired, lasers cutting through the air. Ethan rolled behind a rock, firing back. 2 drones fell, but 3 more appeared. Lyra raised her hand, light gathering in her palm. She shouted a word in her language, and the air exploded. The drones froze mid-air, their lights flickering out. They dropped lifelessly into the sand. Ethan stared at her. Remind me never to make you angry. But Lyra looked shaken. I didn't mean to destroy them. I just wanted them gone. He stepped closer. You saved us again, Lyra. Don't be afraid of what you are. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. You don't understand. Every time I use this power, it remembers me. The heart of Zynar knows I'm alive. Before Ethan could reply, the ground beneath them trembled. Far away, the clouds glowed red. The collector warship had entered the atmosphere. They found us, Ethan said grimly. We need to move now. They ran through the canyon, following the glowing path as the thunder of engines roared above. The path led them to a cliffside cave, hidden behind a curtain of sand. They slipped inside just as searchlights swept the area. Inside the cave, faint symbols glowed on the walls. Xerian runes. Lyra touched one, and the whole chamber lit up with blue light. Ethan looked around in awe. What is this place? Lyra's voice echoed softly. A temple, built by my ancestors, the gateway to the heart. Outside, the collector's machine searched the canyon. Inside, Ethan and Lyra stood before a massive sealed door, carved with ancient markings. Her bracelet pulsed faster. She turned to Ethan, her expression calm but determined. Once we open this door, there's no going back. Ethan looked at her, his face set. Then let's open it. As Lyra pressed her hand against the door, light burst from her bracelet, illuminating the chamber. The symbol shifted and the stone split open with a deep hum. A rush of air poured out, ancient, electric, alive. The heart of Zynar had begun to awaken. The ancient door opened with a low, echoing rumble. A wave of blue light rolled through the cavern, brushing against the walls like a living wind. Ethan shielded his eyes as dust and shimmering particles swirled in the air. When the light faded, the two stood before a vast underground chamber that looked nothing like a temple. It was a lab. Metal structures hung from the ceiling, old machines half buried in sand. Rows of transparent tubes lined the walls, cracked, empty, and covered with ancient markings. The air smelled faintly metallic like old blood and rust. Ethan stepped forward slowly. This isn't a temple, he murmured. It's a facility. Lyra's bracelet pulsed as she moved closer to one of the broken tubes. Her reflection shimmered in the glass next to faint outlines of what looked like other beings. Faint shapes, long erased by time. I've been here before, she whispered, touching the glass. Not in this life. But in memory, Ethan frowned. You mean you remember this place? I don't know if they're my memories, she said softly, or the memories of others they copied into me. Ethan turned toward a terminal half buried under debris. If this place has data, maybe we can find out the truth. He knelt and started tapping on the cracked interface. The screen flickered weakly, showing fragmented lines of alien and human code. Lyra stood behind him, the glow from her bracelet syncing with the terminal's rhythm. After a few moments, the screen stabilized. Ethan's eyes widened. These files are hybrid logs, experiments that combined human and Xerian DNA. He scrolled further. The header read Project Genesis. Lyra's hands trembled. That's the project that created me. Ethan clicked the next file and a series of images appeared. Humans in white suits, standing over glass pods. Inside the pods were silver-skinned children, eyes closed, floating in pale liquid. Some looked almost human, others almost alien. A cold silence filled the room. They made soldiers, Lyra whispered. Not people. They wanted beings that could think like humans but fight like Xerians. Ethan's jaw tightened. So humans started this? Lyra nodded. And when it failed, they erased everything. The Xerian war wasn't about land or power. It was about covering their crime. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. Then humanity's government lied to everyone. They said the Xerians attacked first. Yes, she said bitterly. They called us monsters while making monsters of their own. For a moment, Ethan said nothing. His chest ached with anger and shame. He wasn't responsible for what his ancestors did, but he felt the weight of their actions pressing down on him all the same. Lyra turned away from the screen, her voice trembling. Do you see now why they want me dead? I carry the proof. I am the living evidence of their sins. Ethan stood and faced her. Then we make sure the truth doesn't die with you. Before she could respond, a sharp alarm echoed through the chamber. Red light flooded the room. They found us, Ethan said grimly. The collectors must have traced our energy signature. Lyra looked toward the entrance. Shadows moved there, metallic figures descending the tunnel, weapons glowing. Ethan grabbed her hand. There's got to be another way out. She closed her eyes. The chamber is connected to the core, where the heart of Zynar sleeps. It might lead us out. They ran deeper into the lab, past shattered glass and fallen structures. The deeper they went, the more the air changed. It became warmer, humming with faint vibration. The tunnel opened into a circular room glowing with blue energy veins running across the floor. In the center floated a massive crystal heart, pulsing like it was alive. It radiated light, warmth, and sadness all at once. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes reflecting its glow. "The heart," she whispered. "It's waiting for me." Ethan pulled her back. "Wait, we don't know what it does." She looked at him, calm and resolute. "I do now. It's not a weapon. It's a memory core. A library of every Xerian mind that was ever erased." Ethan stared at the giant crystal. "So your people aren't gone? They're inside this thing?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. The collectors used it to steal our memories. But if I connect to it, I can release them." Ethan's pulse raced. "You mean you can bring them back?" "Not their bodies," she said softly, "but their voices, their truth. The galaxy will know what really happened." Footsteps echoed behind them. Dozens of collector soldiers appeared in the tunnel, weapons raised. Ethan raised his blaster, but he knew he couldn't hold them all off. Lyra looked at him one last time. "You helped me when no one else would. Whatever happens now, thank you." "Don't say it like goodbye," Ethan snapped. "We're not done yet," she smiled faintly. "You don't understand, Ethan. Once I connect to the heart, I won't be the same." He hesitated, his throat tight. "Then I'll bring you back no matter what." As the soldiers charged, Lyra stepped into the glowing light and pressed her hands to the crystal. The heart flared with energy, waves of light blasting through the chamber. The soldiers froze mid-stride, their minds overwhelmed by the surge of alien memories flooding through them. Ethan shielded his eyes, watching as Lyra's body began to shimmer, half light, half flesh. The air filled with whispers, thousands of voices speaking as one. The heart had awakened, and Lyra had become its voice. The light from the heart of Zynar filled the chamber like a sunrise. It pulsed in waves, every beat carrying whispers that echoed through the stone walls, voices of the lost, the silenced, the betrayed. Ethan stood frozen, his heart racing. Around him, the collector soldiers fell to their knees, clutching their helmets as the flood of memories invaded their minds. Lyra stood in the center of it all, her body surrounded by a storm of light. Her silver skin shimmered, her hair floating as if caught in an invisible breeze. She no longer looked afraid. She looked powerful. "Lyra," Ethan shouted over the hum of energy. "You have to stop. It's overloading." But she didn't hear him. Her eyes glowed pure white as she whispered in a dozen voices at once. "We remember. We awaken," the heart responded, beams of light shooting into the ceiling and up through the planet's crust. Ethan's scanner blinked red. An enormous energy surge was spreading into orbit. The collector warship above them trembled as the signal hit, disabling its systems. Across the stars, old Xerian codes began transmitting again. Distress signals, activation codes, ancient commands long thought dead. Ethan stumbled toward her, shielding his face. "Lyra, you're calling the entire galaxy." She turned slowly, her expression both human and alien. "They need to know who we were, who they destroyed." Before he could answer, the ground shook violently. A blast ripped through the tunnel entrance. The collector's commander, Admiral Kor, had arrived with reinforcements. His armor gleamed black and red, his eyes cold as ice. "So this is where the hybrid hides," Kor sneered, "and a human stands beside her." How poetic. Ethan raised his blaster. "You're too late, Kor. The truth is already out." Kor smirked. "Truth is irrelevant. Power is all that matters." He aimed his weapon at the heart, but before he could fire, Lyra raised her hand. The beam stopped mid-air, frozen in a field of blue light. She spoke softly, her voice layered with thousands of tones. "You took our lives. You erased our names. No more." She flicked her wrist, and Kor was thrown back by an invisible force, his weapon shattering against the wall. Ethan ran to her side. "Lyra, you're changing. You can't control this." She turned to him, tears glowing like stars in her eyes. "The heart isn't just power, it's memory. And it's choosing me." The walls began to shake harder. Cracks spread across the ceiling, light spilling from every fissure. Ethan grabbed her arm. "If you stay connected, it'll kill you." Lyra smiled faintly. "Maybe. But if I stop now, everything we did will be forgotten again." Ethan's voice broke. "Then I'll do it with you." He placed his hand on the crystal beside hers. For a moment, pain shot through him like lightning. Images flashed before his eyes, memories that weren't his. He saw the Xerian cities burning, children crying, Humans in armor marching under banners of victory. He saw the betrayal, the lies, the silence that followed. Lyra looked at him in shock. "You're sharing the connection?" He gritted his teeth. "If this thing is rewriting the galaxy's story, I'm going to help write the truth." Their joined energy surged. The heart responded, merging human and Xerian code into one pulse. It spread like a wave across the galaxy, reactivating dormant satellites, unlocking old archives, projecting truth into every major system. The illusion of history shattered. In the distance, the sky split open. A fleet of ships emerged, sleek, glowing, and alive. The Xerian fleet, not destroyed as history claimed, but hidden, sleeping, waiting for the signal. Lyra's voice softened. "They came back." Ethan watched in awe, the return of the Empire. Outside, the Collector warship tried to flee, but Xerian ships surrounded it effortlessly. The planet's atmosphere shimmered with light as the long-lost fleet descended, engines singing like ancient hymns. Inside the chamber, Lyra stumbled, the light around her dimming. Ethan caught her as she fell. "Lyra, stay with me." She looked weak but peaceful. "The heart is free now. My people remember. Humanity will too." Ethan shook his head. "You're not done yet. You started something bigger than both of us. You have to see it." She smiled faintly. "You're stubborn for a human." "Yeah," he said, gripping her hand. "It's one of our few good traits." Above them, a soft light broke through the cracked ceiling. It wasn't sunlight. It was a beam from one of the Xerian ships scanning the temple. The soldiers who had once hunted Lyra now knelt silent as the heart's light wrapped around them. A deep, melodic voice filled the chamber. "The last heir of Xynar is found. The heart is restored. The dead is remembered." Ethan looked up, unsure if it was real or part of the heart's projection. "Debt?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "The humans saved some of us once, before the war began. That's why the heart spared your kind. The galaxy was never meant for one race to rule." The light faded slowly. The heart's glow dimmed to a gentle pulse like a sleeping heartbeat. Lyra collapsed against Ethan, exhausted but alive. "It's done," she whispered. He held her close, looking around the ruined chamber that had once been the birthplace of horror, and now the cradle of truth. "Yeah," he murmured, "but something tells me this is just the beginning." Outside, the fleet formed a silent orbit around the planet. Across the stars, systems stirred with confusion, governments panicked, and old truths crumbled. The galaxy was changing. Humanity's empire was no longer alone. And at the center of it all, in the heart of a forgotten world, a human and an alien girl stood side by side, watching a new age rise from the ashes of the old. The storm above the ruins had finally calmed. Dust drifted through the cracks in the ceiling as faint blue light from the heart of Xynar pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat fading after a long struggle. Ethan sat beside Lyra on the cold stone floor, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. She was breathing, weak but alive. The warship above was gone, destroyed in the light of the awakening. Outside, the galaxy had changed, but down here time seemed frozen. Lyra stirred, her voice soft. "Ethan, did we win?" He smiled tiredly. "You did. You brought your people back. You made them remember." Her gaze drifted to the now quiet crystal heart. "Then why does it feel so quiet? So empty?" "Maybe peace always feels strange after too much pain," Ethan said. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was broken only by the soft hum of the machine still running deep inside the ancient walls. But that calm didn't last long. A deep mechanical rumble echoed through the tunnels. Ethan stood up instantly, pulling his blaster. That doesn't sound like peace. From the shadows of the chamber, a large figure stepped forward. Admiral Kor. His armor was cracked, half melted, one arm sparking with exposed wires. But he was still alive. His eyes burned with rage. "You think you've restored something noble," he growled, voice distorted. "You've only awakened an empire of ghosts." Ethan aimed his weapon. "You should have stayed down." Kor laughed darkly. "You humans never understand. Power doesn't die. It only waits for someone brave enough to claim it." He raised his weapon toward Lyra. Ethan fired first. The blast hit Kor in the chest, but the Admiral didn't fall. The energy dissipated into his armor, absorbed. He slammed his mechanical arm into the floor, sending a shockwave that threw Ethan backward. "Ethan!" Lyra cried, rushing to his side. Kor stepped closer, dragging his damaged leg. "The heart can reshape reality, hybrid. With its energy, I can build a new order, one that will bow to no race. Lyra stood tall, though her body trembled from exhaustion. You don't understand. The heart doesn't obey power. It responds to truth. Then let's test that, Kor hissed. He reached for the crystal heart. Lyra ran forward, but Ethan grabbed her hand. No, he wants you to connect. It'll drain you again. Her eyes filled with determination. I won't let him twist what we freed. She tore free and reached the heart just as Kor's metal hand touched it. The entire chamber exploded in light. Ethan shielded his face as a surge of energy lifted both of them off the ground. Their minds collided in a storm of images. Lyra's memories, Kor's ambition, the cries of billions of souls caught between the past and future. Inside that light, Lyra saw it clearly, the truth Kor could never understand. The heart was never meant to rule or destroy. It was meant to unite. She spoke softly, her voice echoing across the chamber. You can't own life, Kor, you can only share it. A massive pulse erupted and Kor screamed as the energy tore through him. His armor shattered, his body dissolving into dust and metal fragments that scattered like ash in the wind. When the light faded, the heart dimmed again, its glow gentle and warm. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling. Ethan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. It's over, he whispered, holding her tightly. You did it. She opened her eyes weakly. Did we save them? He nodded. The fleet's out there. The Xerian ships, they're protecting the worlds now. Your people are free. A faint smile touched her lips. Then maybe it's time I rest. Ethan shook his head, his voice breaking. No, don't say that. You're not done yet. She touched his cheek gently. You freed me, Ethan. You showed me that humans aren't just what history says. You gave me hope. Her bracelet glowed one last time, the light fading slowly. She closed her eyes, her breathing softening, and the heart pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, as if sharing her final breath. Ethan held her, tears streaking down his face. You're not just a memory, he whispered. You're the reason they'll never forget. The chamber began to collapse around him. Rocks fell, dust filled the air, but he didn't move until the last possible second. Then he stood, lifted her in his arms, and ran through the crumbling passage toward the surface. When he emerged, dawn was breaking across the crimson sky. The Xerian fleet hovered above the planet, forming a silent halo of light. One of the ships descended and projected a holographic image before him, a tall Xerian elder glowing faintly blue. Human Ethan Cross, the figure said. The heart speaks your name. You carried our air and freed our truth. The debt between our kinds is finally paid. Ethan looked up, exhausted. She's gone, he said quietly. The elder shook his head. No, she lives in the heart now. She is the heart. And through her, the galaxy remembers. As the elder vanished, Ethan looked at the sky. Half red, half gold. A single tear rolled down his cheek, but this time it wasn't from grief. It was pride. He whispered, You didn't belong to anyone, Lyra. You belonged to the stars. Behind him, the heart's light rose once more from the ruins, shining like a beacon. Across distant worlds, species that had once hated each other paused, staring at the same sky. For the first time in centuries, silence fell, not from fear, but from awe. And the legend of the human who bid on a life but bought freedom for a galaxy began its long journey across the stars.